As we're learning incredible new details this hour about the circumstances surrounding his death. His front door open, scattered pills on the bathroom countertop, one dog in the closet, two still alive on the.
So as well known as Gene Hackman was, neighbors tell us that he and his wife led intensely private lives here in Santa Fe, their longtime home. And while we've been learning more about this case, there is still so much
Oh my God. The shocking truth behind what happened at his massive New Mexico estate has left absolutely everyone stunned. Investigators are completely baffled as jaw-dropping details keep emerging about the legendary actor's mysterious end. Could there be something sinister lurking beneath what seemed like his peaceful, secluded retirement? Grab your coffee because we need to dive into this absolutely mind-blowing story that has the whole world buzzing.
News, you're looking at video of one of the last times Oscar winner Gene Hackman, a known recluse in recent years, was seen.
So here's the tea. It all went down with this absolutely frantic emergency call on what should have been just another boring afternoon. Hackman's longtime caretaker showed up for what was supposed to be just a routine check. But honey, what they found instead has sent shivers down everyone's spine. Can you imagine walking up to find the front door just sitting open? For someone as intensely private as Hackman, this was already a major red flag. As the poor caretaker stepped inside, they were hit with this eerie, gut-wrenching silence. And then, I can barely say it, as they walked further in, they discovered the absolute worst nightmare. Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, both unresponsive, in completely different rooms of their home. I literally got goosebumps just telling you this.
And here in Santa Fe, Sheriff's Department officials here working behind me have yet another high-profile case on their hands. Aaron, you and I covered at length the Alec Baldwin case, that fatal shooting on the set of the movie Rust. This is the same investigative team that worked that case.
And the plot only thickens from here. When the police first arrived, they were completely stumped. There weren't any obvious signs that someone had harmed either Hackman or Arakawa. At first glance, it honestly looked like they had simply passed away peacefully. But something felt terribly off about the whole scene. A space heater was found right next to Betsy's body in the bathroom, a detail that had investigators instantly suspicious. Pills were scattered everywhere across the countertop, and the positioning of that heater suggested it might have been knocked over during some kind of sudden fall. Was this just a heartbreaking accident, or is there something far more sinister hiding beneath the surface? I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
That initial findings note no external trauma to either individual. They say that carbon monoxide toxicology reports have been requested. Finally, as sheriff's officials gather information, it's worth pointing out that this could take weeks or months before we know exactly what the cause of is. That's because these medical examiner cases often take time in order to get to the root cause of these.
Oh, but wait, it gets even juicier. The FBI swooping in has everyone raising their eyebrows. Even though local police were handling things at first, whispers started flying almost immediately that federal agents had taken a special interest. Like, why would the FBI care about what seemed like a sad but ordinary tragedy? The rumors are absolutely wild. Apparently, they uncovered evidence pointing to something much darker. Possibly a robbery. Could someone have deliberately targeted this Hollywood icon, knowing exactly how isolated his home was and how private he kept his life?
But they've clearly been for several days, and I'm saying days plural, in order to get that kind of mummification. One of the ways of figuring this out, obviously, is from the scene investigation to find out when did they last pick up the mail, when did they last check in with relatives, phone calls, those kind of things, because people generally will communicate with others during the course of their time.
The details inside the home have everyone completely puzzled. Despite that open front door, there wasn't a single sign that someone forced their way in. All the furniture looked untouched. Nothing valuable seemed to be missing. If this was a robbery, it was the strangest one ever. Could someone have staged the whole thing to look like something else entirely? And then there's the absolutely heartbreaking situation with their 3 beloved dogs. One poor pup was found lifeless in a bathroom closet, a discovery that's left everyone devastated and even more confused. But here's the weird part. The other 2 dogs were alive and seemed perfectly fine. One was just roaming around outside while the other stayed near Betsy's body. How on earth did they survive without their owners for so long? It just doesn't add up.
Was a dog who was alive in the house and a dog also that belonged to them who was outside the house.
Right, but the door being ajar means, what Judy describes, which is they could have been there 10 days or 2 weeks, meant that the dogs could have had access to come in and out of that doorway They might have had access to food and to water.
The timeline in this case is absolutely baffling everyone involved. Gene Hackman's pacemaker provided this crucial piece of information. It recorded its last activity on February 17th, a full 9 days before the caretaker made that horrifying discovery. Can you believe that? This suggests the beloved couple might have been gone for over a week before anyone even noticed something was wrong. But here's what I can't wrap my head around. How did no one in their close-knit community realize something was terribly wrong? Yes, Hackman and Arakawa were known for keeping to themselves, but they were also regulars at local spots around town. Did their absence truly go completely unnoticed for that long? Or, and this gives me goosebumps, was someone deliberately keeping quiet about what they knew?
As Hollywood gets ready to honor its best at the Academy Awards this weekend, there are still unanswered questions about the of two-time Oscar winner Gene Hackman and his wife. The couple was found this week in their New Mexico home. On Friday, investigators ruled out carbon monoxide poisoning and revealed other clues that may lead them to determine what did happen.
What makes this case absolutely bone-chilling are the bizarre inconsistencies around Betsy Arakawa's remains. Reports indicated signs of mummification in her hands and feet, a process that normally takes weeks to even begin. Yet Hackman's pacemaker data suggests they'd only been gone for days. Could something in their environment have sped up this process, or is there something else at play that investigators aren't telling us? They also found Hackman near his cane and sunglasses as if he'd been walking through the house when something or someone suddenly stopped him in his tracks. Was his fall truly just a tragic accident, or did he encounter something or someone that led to his final moments? I'm literally shaking just thinking about the possibilities.
Much of the investigation is happening just up this road behind gates and a guard in an affluent neighborhood where homes are separated by acres of land. That's where Hackman and his wife chose to live, decidedly secluded.
As whispers of foul play get louder, the FBI has reportedly started digging into the possibility that Hackman and Arakawa might have been targeted for reasons that go way beyond simple theft. Some theories suggest the couple could have been involved in financial dealings or business ventures that attracted the wrong kind of attention. Despite retiring from acting, Hackman had stayed active in Santa Fe's local scene, even co-owning a restaurant with friends. Could his involvement in these ventures have made him a target for someone with sinister intentions? Others point to how incredibly generous the couple was in their community. Known for their quiet charity work, Hackman and Arakawa supported numerous local causes over the years without ever seeking the spotlight. While their incredible generosity earned them so much love from many, it's possible that not everyone around them had pure intentions. Could someone have taken advantage of their kindness, leading to a situation that spiraled horribly out of control? And what about those pills found scattered near Arakawa's body? Investigators identified them as common medications for thyroid issues and high blood pressure. Nothing immediately suspicious. But why were they spilled everywhere? Were they knocked over in a panic, or do they point to a frantic moment before her passing? Toxicology results won't be ready for months, leaving us all on the edge of our seats.
Investigators been able to get into the obtained cell phones?
Not at this time. We have them in our possession. We'll be analyzing cell phone data, phone calls, text messages, events, photos in the cell phone to try to piece a timeline together.
One of the most disturbing aspects of this whole mystery is what happened with their dogs. German Shepherds are famous for their loyalty and protective instincts. It's almost impossible to imagine anyone entering that home without them causing an absolute uproar. Yet 2 of the dogs were found completely unharmed, with one even wandering freely outside. How in the world did they manage to survive for days without food or water? And why was one poor dog discovered lifeless in a closet? The theories range from natural causes to something far more deliberate and sinister, but for now, we're all left in the dark.
On Wednesday, February 26, 2025, at approximately 1:45 p.m., Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to 1425 Old Sunset Trail, where Gene Hackman, 95, and his wife Betsy Arakawa, 65, and a dog were found.
As this shocking investigation continues, everyone's asking the same question: who or what is responsible for Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's untimely deaths? Was it just a tragic accident made worse by how isolated they were? Or is there a much darker story waiting to be uncovered? The FBI's involvement has everyone convinced this case is anything but straightforward, and the public's obsession with this enigmatic couple has only intensified as new bombshells keep dropping.
Due to the unusual circumstances of 2 decedents in the residence, there was a concern for scene safety. Santa Fe City fire personnel and the New Mexico Gas Company were requested to the scene to test for carbon monoxide or other foreign elements. The scene was deemed safe, and approximately 9:30 p.m., a search warrant was issued and executed on the residence.
The story of Gene Hackman's mysterious passing doesn't just leave us with countless unanswered questions about his final days. It shines a spotlight on the absolutely incredible legacy he built over decades in Hollywood. Can you believe that the man who was once labeled least likely to succeed would go on to become one of the most celebrated and respected actors of all time? But just like everything else about Hackman, his life was anything but ordinary, and his influence reaches so far beyond just the silver screen. Isn't it heartbreaking how someone can seem larger than life, and yet their story can still end in such a puzzling, mysterious way?
From this search warrant, there were 2 green in color cell phones, 2 bottles of medication, 1 bottle of over-the-counter Tylenol, My Request medical records, and a 2025 monthly planner calendar. Those items were secured from the residence for evidentiary purposes.
Gene Hackman's career was absolutely legendary. Over 5 incredible decades, he delivered performances that didn't just entertain us, they left an indelible mark on our hearts and minds. Who could possibly forget him as the relentless Jimmy Popeye Doyle in The French Connection? That role didn't just win him an Academy Award, it cemented him as one of the greatest actors of his generation. And then there was his absolutely chilling portrayal of Lex Luthor in Superman, where his charisma and sly humor transformed a comic book villain into a character you simply couldn't take your eyes off of. Hackman had this magical ability to make any role, no matter how big or small, feel completely real and authentic. Whether he was playing a hardened detective, a scheming lawyer, or that unforgettable reclusive patriarch in The Royal Tenenbaums, Hackman always brought this level of authenticity that made audiences feel like they weren't watching a performance. They were watching a real person with real emotions.
It's weird because I knew a lot of them, so they weren't intimidating. Meeting Gene Hackman the first time, was like, but then finding out he was so funny, that was a great thing.
Yeah.
When I saw him, he did that speech in Birdcage where he just says that thing about, and the leaves, and at that point you just slowly nod off. But he did it so, it's a hard thing to make boring hysterical. And he did it.
Yeah.
And he did it perfectly,
He once said that his approach to acting was all about honesty, about finding the truth in the role and sticking to what was on the page. The clue to any creative process, he explained, is to figure out what's already there instead of trying to embellish it. That beautiful philosophy carried him through a career that spanned everything from gritty dramas to quirky comedies, proving that you don't need to be flashy to leave a profound impact on the world.
Well, this week, our community lost a giant, and I lost a dear friend, Gene Hackman.
His friends and neighbors in Santa Fe described him as a man who valued his privacy above everything else. He wasn't interested in being Gene Hackman, the movie star. He was just Gene, a regular guy who loved to tinker around the house and share stories with his closest friends. One local contractor who worked with Hackman for over 16 years recalled how the actor would often lend a hand on projects around the property. When Gene was on the job, he was just another one of the guys, the contractor said. I couldn't believe I was working side by side with a legend. That humility and down-to-earth nature made Hackman a beloved figure in his community, even as he stayed far away from the public eye. But for all the peace and quiet Hackman seemed to have found in retirement, his final days have left so many of us wondering if there was more going on behind the scenes than anyone realized. The timeline surrounding his passing paints a heartbreaking picture of isolation that's both tragic and perplexing. How could one of Hollywood's most iconic actors go unnoticed for over a week? And what happened during those 9 days that no one seems able to explain? As investigators piece together the clues, fans are left grappling with the devastating idea that someone as unforgettable as Gene Hackman could fade away so quietly and without answers.
He received 2 Oscars, but more importantly, he won the hearts of film lovers all over the world. Gene always said, I don't think about legacy. I just hope people remember me as someone who tried to do good work.
It's not just the mystery of his passing that has everyone talking, though. The emotional reactions from those who knew and loved him have been pouring in, and they paint a picture of a man who was just as extraordinary off-screen as he was on it. Hackman's longtime friend and collaborator Clint Eastwood described him as an actor who brought honesty and grit to every single role. Dustin Hoffman, who once shared an apartment with Hackman in their early, struggling acting days, reflected on their humble beginnings and his amazement at how far they had both come. "We were two kids who had been told we'd never make it," Hoffman said with tears in his eyes, but Gene had this drive, this determination that was unstoppable. He didn't just prove people wrong, he became one of the best. Closer to home, the Santa Fe community has been absolutely devastated, mourning the loss of a neighbor who, despite his fame, never acted like a celebrity. Local restaurant owners shared heartwarming stories of Hackman's incredible generosity, from investing in their businesses to simply being a kind and supportive presence. "Gene and Betsy were part of our family," they said through tears. "Their kindness and love for this city made them more than just icons. They were our neighbors."
Legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa, a couple along with their dog, found in their New Mexico home this week by a maintenance worker. Listen, this is part of the...
As for Hackman's family, the shock and grief are still raw and overwhelming. His daughter Leslie has spoken about the close bond she shared with her father and how much she appreciated the care Betsy Arakawa gave him in his later years. "They had a wonderful marriage," she said, fighting back tears. "Betsy took such good care of him, always looking out for his health." But even Leslie admits that the circumstances of her father's passing have left her with more questions than answers. "We weren't expecting this," she confessed. "There was no indication that anything was wrong."
The reason the digital information from both of their cell phones is so important, Natasha, is because cell phones can track movement, and that's what they are going to look into. When did those cell phones cease not only to be used, but cease to...
But perhaps the most haunting aspect of this entire story is the devastating possibility that we may never get all the answers we're searching for. John Hackman spent his life creating characters that felt real, that felt human, that felt complicated. In the end, his own story has become just as layered and enigmatic as any role he ever played. And maybe that's fitting in a tragic way. Hackman always said he wasn't interested in being remembered as a star. He just wanted to be remembered as a decent actor who did his best. But for fans and friends alike, his passing feels like the end of an era, one that leaves behind a legacy of talent, humility, and now, mystery. So what do you think? Will the investigation finally uncover the truth behind Gene Hackman's final days? Or will his story remain one of Hollywood's great unsolved puzzles? And how do we reconcile the quiet life he chose with the extraordinary career he left behind? Let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to keep watching as we uncover more about this fascinating, heartbreaking story. Until next time, take care and remember to cherish the legacies of those who inspire us. Those who inspire us. Those...